What's going on? I'm gonna talk about today what the reason why people basically move away from black folks. I it's not like it's a dilemma that is kind of unique to a certain extent, but not really, because they do have white people do live around other whites and then they move to different locations. I mean, they've made movies about it. I mean, everybody pretty much has a subculture within their own culture that is based off of lower socioeconomic levels and class, you want to even say. So it's not nothing, it's not unique, but it is widespread amongst black people because certain areas become violent and black people prey on one another when they don't have much. So it's something that I had to come up with as a child. When I basically was young, I lived in a poor area at that time in Chicago, in the south side of Chicago, and my parents moved us, me and my sisters, out of that area basically to another black community that was in the suburbs, in the south suburbs of Chicago. And it was a little bit better, but then later we had to move 2 years after living there because it was like it was still kind of ratchet. I moved to like the south side of Chicago, like off 40th and King Drive, to Harvey, Illinois, in the mid 80s. You could just say mid 80s. And it was like going from like basically like the hood at that time was called the low end, and then going to like a suburban hood. You want to even say, because I don't know, like it's tripped out, but it's I don't know if it's like hard to explain to some people from different parts of the country or whatever, but they do have, like, in the Chicagoland area. I don't know how it is in New York or LA or whatever, but they have like suburban towns or cities that are kind of, especially now, like in the south suburbs of Chicago, they have like suburbs that are kind of ghetto, you know. And Harvey back then was definitely turning that direction, and it's solidified at this point. Like, people from the Chicagoland area, they know about Harvey, Illinois. Harvey, to put it in perspective, uh I got a couple comments here. Yes, so why the topic? Well, in case you didn't know, if you just stumbled upon my channel, I talk about topics that other people don't really want to talk about because it might show black people in a bad light. Yeah, I just said that when I first the first, what, 2 minutes of this video, I literally explained that this is not nothing new. This is a sociological issue that every other ethnic group does the same thing. Every ethnic group has like a lower socioeconomic subculture that's based off of whatever their ethnicity has to do, and the struggles that they have to deal with like dealing with lack, and lack of resources, lack of economic resources, and things of that nature. Every ethnicity has to deal with that, and they try to get away from that. Like, white people, they deal with the trailer parks. Black people primarily associate project buildings or the projects. So white people try to get away from the trailer parks too. You know, they trying to, so a lot of white people do have a trailer park origin story. Some black people have a project origin story. Some people probably even like living in the trailer parks. Some people, I've heard people say that they enjoy living in the projects, living in the hood. So I mean, I stated that earlier. I mean, you probably came late, but yeah, I stated that already. So the thing is that kind of got sidetracked replying to that comment, but basically, yeah, they're in the Chicagoland area. I don't know about other places in the country, but they have like even the suburbs are kind of ghetto, and especially now because basically the south suburbs, a lot of suburbs in Chicago, they got more ghetto because a lot of black people moved from the projects and just basically Chicago in general, and then they moved to the suburbs. Like they flooded the suburbs, so you have areas that they might have not been so ghetto like 30 years ago, like just say like Calumet City, Illinois, Sauk Village, what's another suburb, even Dalton and Riverdale. They weren't so ghetto 30 years ago, but they are now. Definitely are now. So uh even the suburbs are not even safe in some aspects. Like Dalton biggest like story that I've ever heard. I mean, of course, my one of my cousins got shot and killed in Dalton in like 2008. Um, he was living with like an adopted family. Um, and then like they had a nightclub called Secrets. In that nightclub, let me see how many people had got killed in that nightclub. It was a nightclub called Secrets Nightclub, and it's like a whole bunch of people got killed in that nightclub that night. Uh, damn, they got a lot of. I guess that's a popular name for a fucking nightclub because apparently that is it's another nightclub that happened. Um so yeah, five people got wounded in the nightclub. Okay. Um it's an unsolved murder, I believe, too, or unsolved shooting. I don't think nobody got killed. I don't see anything about somebody got killed, but it was like five people got shot at one time. But they didn't find out who the shooters were. But yeah, I mean that's just an example of many examples. But I'm gonna play a video of this mother that apparently. So just to give a backstory, I just want to give like a because I'm from Chicago, so I know exactly like where this incident occurred. So I'm gonna show you kind of the lay of the land of where this incident occurred. This incident with this mother being beat up, she was sick. Apparently she had some type of condition. They said she had, I believe they said she had sickle cell, and she wasn't pregnant, but I think maybe the disease she had her belly protruding as if she was pregnant. So the thing is okay, the bad thing is this incident did happen, and she was probably dealing with dealing with this, probably dealing with more than that. This was basically this area, kind of like a basically it was the area that this happened was called the Wild Hundreds. Okay, I just want you to know, like, okay, it's literally called the Wild Hundreds, and it's not called the Wild Hundreds because it's a nice place to raise a family. Okay, um, it's not. That's not why it's called the Wild Hundreds. All right, so let me zoom in on the map here and kind of show you where this ain't gonna be no long video either. I don't think. Even though I do say that, and then it ends up being long, but um, I don't think this is gonna be that long. So let me share the actual area. So basically, let me zoom out to give you some type of perspective. Okay, so you have basically downtown, the downtown area, yeah, and they actually had a shooting in a loop. Uh, so like where this area on the south area, very far south. So the Wild Hundreds is basically far nation. It's the like far south side, Chicago to the south suburbs of Chicago. So that's where this area that this happened, and it is synonymous for basically a lot of problems. It is here, like Roseland and near Pullman, West Pullman, and all of that. That is in the wild. It's called the Wild Hundreds. Anything, anything above 100, you're in the Wild Hundreds. That's what they call it, the Wild Hundreds. So, you got 95th Street, and then it goes further, and then it's like 99th Street, and then 100th Street. This is on like 107th and Calhoun. So it's like southeast. It's a lot of crime of all sorts. It's like kind of a dead man's land because a lot of all of this is big swaths of area. Like I'm talking about this entire map here. This is known for crime, violence, poverty, lack of everything that I complain about. This area has like no economic control of your landscape, uh a bunch of single moms, basically a lot of this area is single, like literally this video that I'm about to show you is evidence of what people been talking about on YouTube, on basically different platforms, talking about these single mom strongholds, that is this area. Okay, this entire area here is just like a combination. I literally had a property. My first property that I ever bought was in the Wild Hundreds, and it, it was it was pretty nightmarish, I would say, in what basically what's going on in these different areas, because you got to understand, when there's no jobs, there's no businesses that are, hardly any businesses that are black owned, so there's no jobs. Then, because there's no jobs, people have to basically sell drugs, do other illegal activities to survive. And of course, there's there a lot of wild behavior, because the police are at times, they're there just to kind of pick up the body after someone is fell, to the ground, or come basically to deter people or whatever. But they don't really have control over this area, none of this area. They just kind of maintain, things or whatever. But I remember when I first bought my house, it was an abandoned house that was basically fire damaged. The police said, don't go to a particular gas station, because there's been a lot of shootings at this particular gas station. It was new. This is, pretty interesting. You buy, just imagine you buy a property, and then the police tell you kind of what is going on there. So let me go to this video, and let me play this video here, and show you what happened with this woman and what the aftermath was. All right, let me play this here.
Mother and her son and the little girl, they all got by a gang of little elementary school kids. They got drugged by a bunch of elementary school kids. All them kids went to this school called Orville T. Bright in Chicago. Mother, she.
Let me see it.
Sure, I know y'all done seen the viral video with the mother and her son by a gang of little elementary school kids. They got drugged by a bunch of elementary school kids. All them kids went to this school called Orville T. Bright in Chicago. Mother, she got sick of cells, so she wasn't even already feeling good. And the kids been already bullying her little boy. They've been bullying the little boy. So she walked home from school. She said they met her. I guess they knew like the route they take. They met them on their route they take home and followed them, and was, just being just some horrible ass kids. Now she was a strong mama, because had it been me,
I had to agree. Like, I would probably carry a gun, and I wouldn't have shot none of the kids, but I probably would have went to jail, because I would have pulled it out, and I would have fired in the air, because firing in the air would have had all of them disperse. But yeah, I mean, every people were filming on their smartphones, and they would have filmed me pulling out my gun and popping around off in the air, because that's how you get rid of basically wild animals. You pull out a gun and you shoot. Most, even bears, coyotes, even wolves, they understand the shot of the sound of a gun going off is danger, so they'll run away. So I mean, I have to admit, yeah, I could see myself in a situation like this, definitely going to jail, because I would have done something pretty drastic. I'm gonna be honest. That story that I mentioned earlier, about living in the low end and living in the ghetto in Chicago. And the tripped out thing is where I lived in Chicago is now a upper middle class black neighborhood now, and that's what it was when it first started. It was called Bronzeville. But the thing is that I remember during that time, and this is the first time that I was like really scared of my father. I seen my father do. I don't even know why my father didn't go to jail for this, but I literally seen he pulled out a brick and threw the brick at the little girl. I mean, all I can say is like my dad is from West Africa and is pretty much kind of like that's just kind of how they get down in a lot of different parts of Africa, where it's just kind of, you know, they call it jungle justice. I mean, I didn't understand that at that time being a little boy, but yeah, that literally happened. Even my mother was scared after that incident because she was like, damn, you know, I can't believe this actually happened. But yeah, like I probably would have did something very similar to what my father did, because, and even worse, because my father wasn't necessarily in danger. These little girls was just, you know, trying to mess with my sister. But yeah, like let me finish playing this video here.
First thing was that had a whole conference, the whole of Chicago, West Side, East Side, South Side, North Side showed up and had her back. All right, check the fuck out. Go here, baby. Connect it. I don't think it's
God, what?
Wait.
This school for 2 years. Nobody's ever done nothing. The way we walk was jump all of us.
So now we waiting.
They don't found two of the mamas, and the mamas had to deactivate their page because people paying to mama pay you to go find her and her son and do the same thing to them. Like when I say they've been dragging them on a good face of the.
And you could notice, what do you notice about all of these chicks? Obviously, even the chick talking, extremely ratchet, high level ratchetry. Like, I mean, high levels. What's going on, Seeking My Creator? He said this is one of the biggest internal problems of the black community. Well, yeah, I mean, this is like a vacuum. So what happens, typically what happens, right? Let's just say, let's go back to before I was born, most likely before you were born, Seeking My Creator. Let's go back to 1950. You'd have to go back that far. That was about when the time my mother was born. Most black families had basically they were mother and fathers in the home. They were married. So you know, they didn't necessarily have a lot of money, but they were, you know, it was families that were married. Okay. And even in Chicago. And then basically, you know, history, the feminism and you know, female independence movement and crack cocaine, drugs, CIA, blah blah blah. And basically you know, people start being able to make enough money to move out of the black community. Okay. And moving black people that had the means to move out of the black community, they left a power vacuum. Okay. And with that power vacuum, you still see that now. It's still going on to this day. You seeing evidence of it now. Like the people that were left, they weren't able to leave because they didn't have the money to leave. So you basically have a class of people that basically have no means to leave, and it's almost like a Hunger Game situation to where basically everybody has to fend for themselves. And that's what is created when you have areas where it's black flight. All you have is people that are ratchet left. It's like you have it's like, look at it like the ratchet class. Okay, the ratchet class is all that's left in a lot of these areas, and they have to fend for themselves. They have schools in these areas. They have businesses like McDonald's and Wendy's and gas stations and all kinds of other things that, you know, you get and buy stuff and buy fast food. And they have houses, they got apartment buildings, they got commercial real estate. They still have elements of society that the greater society has or everybody else has. But what you have is a household that is predominantly ran by single mothers, you know, the black gynocracy or matriarchy. Well, this is a lower tier of that black matriarchy, okay? Because basically these are children of, you know, basically ratchet men impregnating ratchet women, and then they all have to fend for themselves. And this area is big miles. I'm talking about miles and upon miles of area, landmass of just basically black people that have very low levels of socioeconomic power, that they just have to day to day survive and fend for themselves. Some people do have money in these areas, and you know, they take advantage of the, you know, lower price real estate, and then they, you know, have a fence and some guns and some dogs to deal with this type of area. But for the most part, it's just a bunch of single mothers with children, you know, and they're not well behaved, you know, because the women, they're terrible parents, because basically they're terrible people. To be honest, terrible people don't make good parents. You know, if I had to go back in time, like, and really think about that, you know, like if I could go 20 years ago and somebody just tell me like, hey man, you know, it's common sense, but it's like, hey, don't get a terrible woman, because basically you're probably gonna have you know, a terrible situation to deal with trying to raise children with this woman. And if it's a good chance, very strong chance, your children will also be terrible, you know. So it's certain people that, you know, they add certain things and stuff like that to this, you know, to YouTube or social media spaces. And when they say, when that dude, he's from Chicago too, I think it's Palmer, something Palmer. He always talks about the child support and all of that. Like when he calls them baby mama terrorists, well, it is very true in many regards. A lot of these women, that's what they act like, terrorists. And you starting to see that this made world news. If it just, you know, just a reminder, if it goes viral in the United States, it's the whole world saw it at that point, because all of the whole world sees the United States, you know, viral videos. So the whole world have seen this, and what the whole world is seeing is elements of, you know, basically of the failed gynocracy, you know, the failed black matriarchy. and this is the lowest tier of it. It's just another black eye. You know, a lot of black women, they only want good representation of them. You know, every element of them, they want good, valuable representation. And when this comes out, it's just another black eye towards that positive black female representation that they want. But unfortunately, this is what's left in these black communities where black flight has occurred. Now, this area, black flight has occurred since the 80s. I mean, a lot of the people that lived in the wild hundreds, they've already moved to the south suburbs or moved somewhere else. They don't live in the wild hundreds anymore. The only people that was left there is probably older people that's probably already have died or moved on to a nursing home, and then younger people, okay, that obviously are not married. That I'll just leave it at there. Just not, you know, they're not married, of course, and it's just very, very much low class behavior.
Book. Oh, they been dragging their ass. Them parents got to go hiding because social media is right here. They pretty much yet debate.
Shamar! Come here! What you want, Shamar? Well, Shamar, what you want, Shamar? Ma! Look at them ankles, boy! Shamar looking at.
And it's another thing, and it doesn't have anything to do with necessarily black or white or anything. It's just animal nature. Animals pick on the weak. Okay. The mom is sick, and then there's smaller children, and it's only a girl and a boy. So I'm not saying that what anybody should do, but when you have more than, let's just say, two children, especially just a girl and a boy, let's just say you have that's why some people, they have like ladder children. And what I mean by ladder children is they have children for like every 2 years or every year. They might have like 4 or 5 kids. So by the time the youngest kids go to school, they have like a sibling that's in high school or in junior high, in might even be in high school or something, and that's like an extra layer of protection. It's like you having elder siblings is just more people to fight off, so other children don't mess with you because you got other siblings, you got other people to protect you and fight back. So that's just what happens. I had to deal with that because I didn't even have any brothers, so I had to do a lot of fighting, even in the suburbs, because people just they want to pick on easy targets. Not to say that even me by myself was an easy target, by no stretch of the imagination. I definitely held my own and did it pretty fairly well. That made me, a legend. Okay, I from my hometown, I'm definitely a legend because I didn't even have brothers, and I held my own and then some. But for example, I had a friend that had an older brother, had two older brothers that was adults. Nobody messed with him. And then also one of his brothers was kind kind of in like a high level. He was like in a high level. He was a high level gang member. They didn't really mess with him because they knew it was gonna be some type of dire consequence to mess with him. You know, so it's like that's what happens as well. But again, that's kind of animal nature. Animals pick on the weak, tend to pick on the weak. You know, so this is yeah. You know, also, like I said, I mentioned gangs. When you hear somebody say in Chicago, they say don't touch or don't do something faux, or they say my own. When they say faux, that's one of the biggest gangs in Chicago. The Gangster Disciples. They say, oh, well, that's Chicago lingo, and that just means that his father or some part of his family most likely is gangster disciple. They say on foe in them. That's that lingo. That's from that gang. You know, basically, because it's a pretty popular gang, and it's they have the most members in power in Chicago. They have the most people that, you know, in as far as gangs. They're one of the biggest gangs in Chicago. Basically, the Gangster Disciples spread out all over the United States. There's Gangster Disciples in Memphis, in New York, in other parts of the country. Even when I was in the Navy, I was in the Navy on a battleship in Japan, and people were shaking up Gangster Disciple. I know that handshake very well because that's basically I saw it my whole life. And they were shaking up Gangster Disciple on a naval aircraft carrier stationed in Japan. Okay, so gang culture is culture. Culture does have the habit of spreading, you know, but that's why that's that lingo phone them.
Look at them bitches, crackhead.
So that's that video. But this woman basically, what happened? She's now, you know, because of basically social media and you know, basically people that know about the story that have the means to help. She's got $1 million from Oprah. She's got a couple $100,000 from a GoFundMe and I think a paid for house. I believe. So somebody, you know, was able to give her a house or give her housing. It's kind of tripped out, you know, because it happened so fast. I mean, this only happened a week ago, and now, you know, she's pretty much a millionaire. You know, based off of you know, something that she had to deal with walking her kids from school. Like, I mean, it's tripped out. Like, and those young people that, you know, were acting like, you know, wildlings off of the Game of Thrones, they have to go wake up. You know, they going, you know, it's Thanksgiving break right now. When they come back from Thanksgiving break, they still got to walk to that same school that has a 1.7 review rating. The rating out of 5.0, that school rating is 1.7. They have to go back to that poor school in that poor neighborhood And that family, they're out of that neighborhood, and then now they're millionaires. imagine that. Like you beat up somebody to the point where they done damn near you done made them rich by beating them up. Like this would never happen in the 80s and 90s before the smartphone era. This would never happen because nobody would have known about that fight. And it would have just been a fight. I'm sure it's probably even happened before, you know. And what's going on, Snowman? Yeah, like this happens quite often. And you know, because of the smartphone era and the internet era, and now the social media era, they basically kind of in a way helped. This was a call for help. All of this was a call for help. Like, so unfortunately for those young kids that were, you know, walking around and making fun of her, you know, she probably didn't really have the means to help, you know, to help herself like she really wanted to. And, you know, dealing with a lot of them deal with poverty, right? They're rich now. and the other kids, you know, they're not, you know, and then I'm pretty sure at the end of the day, as the dust settle, you know, you don't know what these people got to go through. They probably, you know, got to deal with roaches. They probably living with roaches and mice and rats, you know, trying to, you know, going, you know, okay. I you know, waking up early in the morning, you going to go get some cereal, and then you got some roaches in it. You know, you trying to get the milk. Imagine, you know, it's times where there's no milk in the refrigerator because somebody forgot to get the milk or whatever. You know, it may be a little bit of milk, and then you had to put some water in it to kind of, you know, it's kind of thin, but you know, you put some water in it, or it's no milk at all. Then usually when there's no milk at all, it's just like, fuck it, you know, I just gotta go get some milk, right? Or mom's gotta go get some milk. But when the fucking roaches are in the fucking cereal box, ain't no fix for that shit. You gotta throw the cereal box out. So you know, they dealing with that, you know, it's all kind of stuff. But it, you know, this is like one of the reasons why black people move out of areas like this, like why black flight occurs. And obviously this is 2025. This area, the Wild Hundreds, black flight has decimated the Wild Hundreds. They've been moving out of the Wild Hundreds. When I was in high school, it was my high school, Thornridge High School. Some of the high school kids that I went to school with, they lived in the Wild Hundreds, and for some reason or another, they might have had a family member that they used the address, and they had to go take the bus to go to high school because they had to go back home to the Wild Hundreds. You know, they moved out of those areas. They didn't just stay in those areas. They moved out of those areas. They no longer live there. They probably live in Houston or something, or Atlanta or somewhere else. Like some people just move out of Illinois, you know. So all together. So it's been, this area has been, you know, basically black flight has basically like black people have deserted this area like back in the 90s. You know, I remember, you know, people were talking about the Wild Hundreds in high school and stuff, you know, in the late 90s. So a lot of the people, like I said, are there. They are already, you know, it's already an area where it's only ones left are not the well-to-do, but the least to do. Okay. The least to do is the only ones that are there. Okay. Everybody's already moved out. And this is one of the reasons why Black people move out of these areas, because they concerned about a lot of the schools. The reason why the schools are so terrible is you got a lot of kids that they act like the kids you've seen on this video. They act like that even in the schools. You know, I worked in Chicago public schools, man. These kids are terrorists in the schools as well. You know, and one of the things that I noticed, I'll never forget, I'll tell my grandkids this story. When I was a computer teacher in a school on the west side of Chicago. Believe it or not, the west side of Chicago, in my humble, strong opinion, it makes the south side look like Santa Claus story. I mean, the west side of Chicago is, in my opinion, is way. I mean, they called the west side of Chicago the Wild Wild West. Like, you can turn on. It's a what was it? Yeah, Kool Moe Dee had a hit song in the late 80s. It was called the Wild Wild West. That's still a hit song on the west side of Chicago. If you play that, you go through the west side of Chicago and you play the Wild Wild West, man, you might have crackheads dancing. What did it say? When I saw my chance to get out the Wild Hundreds, I took it. Oh, you say yeah, go Falcons, man. I wrestled. The only thing I did in high school was wrestle. I was on the wrestling team my freshman and sophomore year. I should have stayed with it, but I had real severe hoop dreams, and I tried my hardest, but I only made it as far as practice. So that's as far as I made it. The coach at that time allowed me to practice. So you grew up in the Wild Hundreds, so that's where you sprung from. Because I know you from Chicago. You mentioned it several times. So you made it out the Wild Hundreds, boy. I know you got some stories. Man, you must got some stories to tell. Speaking of stories, if you got any input on this or you want to talk about this, let me drop the link. And you know what? I got a little time because I just had a good night. I did hit a little parlay. It was only like $200. But I'm glad to win nonetheless. Like, of course I spent about 100, so I'm only up 100 because I had to spend 100. I lost my other bets, and I was able to put a halftime bet in. I tell some people, I even pay to tell people, like, I pay to see slips. You could, and I want a little money, man. So I'm a little happy, man, that I was able to make it through with the little money. So now I got a little money to play college football tomorrow, and I got a full NBA slate tomorrow as well, and of course college basketball. So it's a pretty decent time if you are in the sports, or even if you are a sports bettor, because you got the NHL, you got basketball, you got football, and soccer, of course, overseas. You got the World Cup, going on. What else? Of course, tennis. Golf is pretty much wrapping up. Tennis is wrapping up too. And of course, boxing and UFC, but I don't really bet boxing or UFC. And that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't bet on quarter horses. My dad used to, and one of my uncles used to bet on horses. But yeah, I mean, that's that. But yeah, I mean, this is like like I said, this was kind of going to be a short one. I guess I'll play another video. Let me find another video. I'm pretty sure somebody explained in their own words why they moved out of the hood. I mean, basically, like, you do have. I will say there's a book on this, and this let me show this book real quick while I'm looking for this. There's a book called Dark Ghettos. It talks extensively about this issue and why Black people move out of the ghetto or even stay in the ghetto. So Dark Ghettos was wrote by Tommy Shelby. Okay. Dark Ghetto. It was a hit book. It was actually a hit book. I think they said it got a split prize. It got a couple prizes, I guess. And yeah, it was a hit. It was a hit book. It's called Dark Ghettos by Tommy Shelby. Let me share my screen and show you this book here. It's on a Harvard Press Review. I don't know. It was written a while back, but yeah, this is a pretty good book, and it explains and it talks about, kind of like the whole element of, why Black people move out of the ghetto, why they stay in the ghetto. Very good book. Very, very good book. So, let's see here. Let me see here. I mean, like the best thing you could do, like for yourself and your family, is move out of the ghetto. Yes. I mean, like that's the best thing you could do. Like that was one of the smartest things my mother did was move out of the ghetto, move us out of that undesired. I live literally right across the street from the projects. Like the projects was like one. I live right behind the Green Line in Chicago. The Green Line is a track in the CTA line. So basically Chicago's trains, they have different colors. They have brown, they have orange, they have green, and they have red, and then they have blue. So basically the Green Line goes from like downtown to the south side of Chicago. And basically like the Green Line, their train was like right behind my family's apartment building. And yeah, I used to throw rocks at the train, believe it or not. I was like 5 years old. I was like 4 or 5 years old throwing rocks at the train. And right behind that train was this building called the Calumet. They call it the Calumet building. So I lived on the block I lived on. What block was that? It wasn't Drexel. It was right off of King Drive. I think I lived. I lived on Calumet. I believe it was Calumet, but the street. I think the street where that project building was on another street, but I can't remember it. But basically, like the project building was literally right behind the train track. So it was a ghetto. It was very much the ghetto. Those buildings are no longer there now. That area is called Bronzeville, and it's $1 million buildings now. It's kind of like how Brooklyn was in New York in the 90s and 80s, and then how it is now. But a little bit more just a little bit different because Chicago real estate is not as expensive as New York real estate. New York real estate is more expensive than Chicago real estate. Okay, so let me see here. Let me see here. I'm trying to find a video, but I don't really see much. Or maybe I was just talking and then I didn't notice. Let me see here. Let me take ghetto out. Let me just put the hood. Because everybody doesn't say ghetto, I guess. Okay, let's see here. Who should I watch? The bougie looking black dude or the kind of like in between black dude? Let's see here. All right. I guess you know what? Fuck it. I'll just play Anton. Because I think Anton probably lived in the hood at one particular time. So he probably has a perspective. And he is a rich dude. You gotta give it to where it's due. I mean, I do believe he did whatever he did, or somebody said that his dad died and left him a pretty hefty insurance policy or something like that. I mean, whatever the case may be, man. I mean, the man, I don't like the clown dudes that make, I don't like the clown dudes that, even if I haven't confirmed that they're a millionaire or whatever, like people clown, they clown Boyce Watkins. You know what I'm saying? I make fun of him too, but I still respect Boyce Watkins because he actually did achieve a certain financial success. And I don't agree with, I think it's clown shit to like make fun of like guys that have achieved a certain level of financial success. Because one thing about black people, especially black people in the hood, they don't respect hierarchies. Black people do have a problem of respecting hierarchies. They don't respect people that have black people have some type of egalitarian viewpoint on everybody and including themselves. They don't respect anybody as above them. Even though people are above people. Like, I mean, I don't get the whole idea of somebody that has a master's degree or a PhD and is a millionaire is not above someone that is, that has an EBT card and a part-time McDonald's paycheck. Like, I just don't agree with that. Like, I don't agree with that. I do respect hierarchies. I do believe in hierarchies. And part of my respect is part of my success. Because I respect hierarchies, I try to achieve certain levels of higher success because that is the notable thing to do, is try to achieve the highest possible way you can can achieve. Like, even though if it's hard, and it is definitely hard, like it's not easy to be black, especially a black man in America, and achieve a certain level of financial success. It is a lot harder, and this is not an opinion, it is a lot harder to achieve a certain level of financial success if you're an African American man in this country. And I don't have to state any reasons why. You already fucking know why. And if you believe that that is not a lie, or you believe that is not true, you're gaslighting, which basically you're lying, because it is. And I don't even have to state why it is. I've this whole channel, like about 30 to 40% of this channel is me stating the reason why it is very, very difficult to achieve a certain level of financial success being an African American male in this country. Okay, I talk about it regularly, damn near every live stream. But anyway, let me play this video here.
I want to be better. I want to use my words properly. Sometimes I use my words properly. Mess up. Sometimes I even revert back to talking like I was in the hood. But guess what? The goal is not to be that. The goal is not to subject my daughter to being that. I don't want my daughter to go through it to get to where I am. I want the lessons. I want to understand, but I don't want her to be sitting here in front of a crack house 2 or 3 doors down in order for her to understand what it takes in order to be an overcomer. We gotta do better. If you don't even want to do it for yourself, do it for your wife, do it for your kid, do it for your unborn kid, do it for the people that are depending on you and the person that you're going to influence. That's not cool. Ain't nobody trying to be like the hood. We trying to get away from the hood. That's the goal. All right. So Rita's over there putting up a Christmas tree. The Christmas tree is very, very tall. Apparently, Rita said, listen, Anton, we're going to host Thanksgiving this year, and it's important for you to be here. Last year, I decided, listen, I don't feel like being bothered with some of these people because I don't look at them as family. I look at you guys as family. Our gang wasn't as big as it is today, but I look at you guys as family. And so I said, you know what? I'm going to catch y'all later. Rita and Leslie, they went to the whole Thanksgiving shebang. Anton Daniels decided I wanted to go to Vegas. So I went into Vegas. I messed up the church's money. No, that's a joke. I did lose a bag last year in Vegas. I mean, I lost a bag, but I had a ball. I vlogged from Vegas. I had a good time. Vegas was my Thanksgiving. I have no problem traveling by myself, and we have no restrictions in our relationship when it comes to our ability to get out and fulfill whatever we need internally in order to be able to thrive externally. You know what I'm saying? So I needed to be in Vegas. I was in Vegas. I had a good time. That vlog is still up on my other channel. And shout out to everybody that was holding me down even back then last year this time. All right. But yesterday, and it made my heart feel absolutely awesome to see. Thank you for my team. You're so welcome. And you making T look at all sexy and beautiful. And you sleeping as you walk back. Stop twerking. Stop twerking. But no, seriously, it makes my heart glad when I can be family man. I love being family man because it's the thing that we desired when we were growing up. Rita and I was out in the streets downtown yesterday. You know, I'm in the streets every single day, which is one of the reasons why I document my journey and I do my videos. I do my videos where I bring y'all along the journey with me to help you to understand what my thoughts are, what's going on, and then I get to record in real time and then drop it on y'all for the other channel, in addition to live streaming on this channel. But me and Rita was in the streets last night, right? And so we downtown, and then we made a stop over to MGM, and we kicked it with some people. Shout out to everybody that ran into me at MGM yesterday. Y'all dope. I love y'all. I appreciate y'all showing me love. Everybody that run into me, nobody ever got any kind of negative thing to say about me. I don't even know how I got addicted Just like on this video, when I haven't even gotten started into the video really yet. We just kicking it. We're not even 10 minutes in, and I already got 2 dislikes. Shout out to the Dusty Dusties. We love you too. I prayed for y'all this morning. Neither here nor there. But me and Rita, we was out in the streets. Everybody's showing us love. We stopped over to MGM. Through the dice at the
fast forward this a little bit.
So very early on in my life, I realized I no longer wanted to be a witness to what happens when the raid band pulls up. I no longer wanted to be exposed to the possibility of somebody dying, or a house getting broken into, or seeing a freaking crackhead at the corner store looking like he's stoned out of his mind, and then that just becoming a normal part of my day, because my father sending me to private school in middle school had exposed me to something completely different. So I changed my narrative, because that was no longer.
Just in case you didn't know, Anton, he grew up. I kind of started to watch Anton. I started watching Anton, I think like 2021 or 2020. I think I started watching Anton. Because I could remember, because when I was working at Diageo, you know, I remember I was listening to Anton back then. I think it was kind of before he went to Lapeef, I believe, or maybe that was around that time. But I think it was before Lapeef, but I'm not really sure. I think it was, but I'm not really 100% sure on that. But I remember, because see, Anton brought his mom on this show, and his mom and dad, I think they divorced or something like that. And he briefly went between living, I think, with his father and then his mother. His father must be kind of like have been well to do or something, but his mom is fine as fuck. Like, his mom is like, and you got to understand, she's older, so she's, you know, you don't know how she looked when she was young. His mom is like, at her age now, and I think she's probably in her like 60s or something. She's like 8 or 9. So she had to have been like a dime when she was like younger. His mom is exceptionally gorgeous. Like my grandma was like that. And I have an aunt that was like that. Like, his mom's like fucking like model type, like looks as far as things. And if for whatever reason, like, yeah, he grew up primarily being raised by his mom in Detroit.
Normal for me. I no longer wanted to be subjected to gang war and 8 Mile Scones, 7 Mile Blood, and all this other type of stuff.
And Detroit is like, it's pretty rough. Like, Detroit is rough. Like, it's, I mean, I don't know. I ain't gonna say it's like Chicago, but Detroit is definitely pretty, is just as grimy as Chicago is. Gary, Indiana, like, it's pretty, it goes down in Detroit. Detroit actually might even be worse than Chicago. And I'll explain why Detroit is worse than Chicago. So Chicago still has a level of like multiculturalism, whereas, like, okay, you have checks and balances, okay, with different cultures of people. You got primarily the whites they are still working in the city of Chicago. They work in all aspects of the city of Chicago. A lot of the police are white. Okay. A lot of the fire department is still white, right? Um, a lot of the city workers are white, right? Hispanic, as well. Um, you know, as far as cops and city workers and stuff like that, right? Well, in Detroit, it's kind of tripped out, but it's primarily a black ran city. Like it's most of the white people in the 90s left Detroit. A lot of the factories closed down in the 70s and 80s, I believe. And they had recessions and stuff, where they weren't selling cars and stuff like that. They shut down some factories, car factories and whatnot, the automotive industry, right? And the city started to become politically black controlled, and the white people moved to different parts of Michigan away from Detroit. So basically what you had in Detroit, in the 80s and 90s, you had a unique situation. You had basically, it's very similar. So what I'm trying to tell you is Detroit is very similar to Gary, Indiana, in a sense of basically most of the white people left Detroit. So you had basically black people from all aspects of city workers to cops being the only ones left to run the city. And I mean, obviously, how that went, but you got to understand also, you had crack cocaine, basically the drug industry was really big in the 80s and 90s. So you have that element, and then the drug wars that happened with that, and all of the violence and crime that comes from that. And then that didn't stop, and that's still going on in Detroit, because the problem with Detroit was you didn't have a lot of jobs, because you left these black people to run this city, and they wanted to, but they didn't know how to run it. They didn't have the collective ability to run a city. So obviously, in case you didn't know, Detroit filed bankruptcy in like during the time that the market crashed in 2008. They were like the first major city in U.S. history to have to file for a municipal bankruptcy. And I didn't even know that a city can actually do that, but fortunately, there's different types of bankruptcy, and even business bankruptcies that you can do. And also you can do a municipal bankruptcy, which is very rare, but can be done. And Detroit had to do that. Detroit is like a major city like Chicago, New York. It's small, but it's a major city. For a major city to have to file bankruptcy, that's just not unprecedented. Presented. Like basically, no major city has to necessarily file bankruptcy, because they could always depend on the tax roll and different corporate interests or business interests to rely on for tax basis, right? Well, Detroit didn't have all of that, so they had to file bankruptcy. And they had terrible management of the city, so they had to file bankruptcy. So in essence, to a certain degree, let's just say if I had to choose Detroit versus Chicago, I would wholeheartedly choose Chicago, because in Detroit you have a situation where it's almost like you could call Detroit Nigeria and not be far off. You can call Detroit Little Nigeria, because basically that's what you had. You had basically black people running in an entire city, and when you add corruption to the mix, as you did have in Detroit, and you have crack cocaine and drugs and drug violence, gang violence to add to that, and poverty and lack of jobs, and it's just a nightmare situation. And I just like at the end of the day in Chicago, the entire Chicago, you had enclaves that you can go to. Like I'm in one right now that you don't really have to worry about a lot of that stuff. You can, it's kind of like a fish tank where, and this is what was told by me, because at one time I was trying to raise saltwater fish, and I had a little small fish tank. It was only like maybe a 40-gallon tank or something like that. And one of the people at the fish store or the pet shop was like, you really need to have like 100-gallon tank or better, because the fish need, in case bad water quality, they need another location to go in the tank where there's better water quality, so they can survive. And it's like basically in Chicago, you still have areas where you can go in Chicago, where it's a good quality of living. Well, in Detroit, it's kind of like the 35-gallon fish tank or 40-gallon fish tank. Like you ain't got nowhere to fucking go. And it's like it's small. Everybody kind of knows everybody. And it'd be it'll be a situation where somebody got murdered and people knew exactly who got murdered, why he got murdered, and even who did it. Very, very much a problematic situation to deal with. And not really, to be honest with you, I've been to Detroit recently. I was in Detroit 5 years ago in 2020, chasing some tail. I went all the way to the D to deliver some D. And boy, did I ever deliver. Phew, boy.
Even through my marriage, the goal was to make it out of the hood. My homeboy Mirror, shout out. We used to catch the bus, the Hamilton bus, and I would go over to his hood and he would make sure that, Anton get a pass and all of this other type of stuff. And then he would come over to my hood and we would hoop and we would do certain things. And then we grew apart as we graduated high school. But then at some point, he was one of the first people that I graduated with. He was a smart dude, but he was never able to shake the people that were around him that influenced him to go into a specific lifestyle. And then I found out that he had got killed. Another homeboy of mine, Juan, shout out to Juan. Juan was getting money. Juan was one of the first people that I seen, one of the first young dudes that I graduated with that had the mink coats on and the Bentleys and all of this other type of stuff. Juan had got his Bentley way before I was ever driving a Bentley. And then Juan had to go away for a while. Even in the people that I've seen success in, I had never seen anybody fully pull away from and make it out the hood. So when we finally seen some people, and it was some people that my father and my mother had took into our lives, and they had laid on our couches and our beds and slept on our floors because their parents were crackheads and stuff like that. Some of them had wind up becoming successful and having families and working for Coca-Cola and all of these different things, and they thrived. And they were successful. Relatively. I mean, they wasn't rich, but they had fully engulfed themselves in becoming solidly middle class, and some of them even upper middle class. And they had a greater ceiling and a greater expectation for me. But the point that I'm making is that I always, and even the people that was around me that wasn't able to get themselves out of the hood, shout out to Juan, you already know, Kojak, did a serious bid. I never, ever seen anybody that tied themselves to the hood long term get out of it. all the way for the rest of their life and thrive. Nobody. Not one person. But it was the goal for most of us. Some of us couldn't see it because that's all that they had ever known. They didn't even know anything outside of their hood. All they knew was the hood. They didn't know nothing about even going to Ohio from Detroit. Chicago, Pittsburgh, you can forget it. New York, that was just something that we seen from rappers on TV. Nas, DMX, Jay-Z, all of them type of dudes. But they had never in any way, shape, or form ever expected or wanted to, because it was the only thing that they ever known, ever getting out of the hood. This is real life. So now that I'm family man at 39 years old, we survived. We made it. We got out of the hood. Not only did we get out of the hood, but we got our families out of the hood. My wife is from Exit 9, Joy Road in Detroit. If you don't know nothing about it, you can look it up. My wife is from Joy Road, fam. Out of the hood. Not only did I get my wife out the hood, I got my wife's mother out the hood. I got her family out the hood. We got everybody out the hood. Everybody is safe. Everybody is thriving. Everybody is winning. That was the goal.
Now, you got elements of racism and stuff, but you got to understand there's also classism. There'll always be poverty. There will always be people that lack, because at the end of the day, every person has the option and free will to lay in the bed and scratch their nuts, or get out the bed and then go try to make some money or go to work or whatever. Because people have free will to do whatever they want to, a lot of people will not want to do certain things to make a living, or they don't want to. You got people that's just going to be lazy. So they're not going to be earning that much. Like even to be honest, women, a lot of black women are the only one that does this, because there's some type of propaganda rift between black women and black men in America that, basically is pushed. I think the powers that be perpetuate and push this narrative. But the whole overall narrative of black women saying that they got more degrees and they out earn men, that is not true. First of all, as far as the out earn, they have more degrees than black men, but they don't out earn black men. And the reason being is black men tend to do whatever it takes to make money, even if it's hardcore labor. Like, you can be a concrete specialist, right? And you can make $100,000 more a year, or plus a year, being a concrete guy. Basically, you got a diamond cutter, or you rent it. You got a portable diamond cutter that can rip through a road, or basically rip through concrete. And you know how to surface concrete and cut concrete and all aspects of dealing with concrete. Basically hard blue collar work. Women are not going to do that. It's just by proxy of, it's a lot of things that women ain't going to want to do, ain't going to do to get down for that bread. It's a man that's trying to get some sleep right now. He got to get up early in the morning and go cut some concrete. And he getting paid. He might get paid, if he worked for a company, he probably getting like $70 an hour with overtime or something like that, or at least like $40-something an hour because he's union. I mean, it's just, women are not going to do that work. They're not going to, just do certain tasks that men will do, and they go make that bread. Women will prefer to make that easy bread, like working at a dentist's office, filing paperwork. It only probably pays like $22 an hour, but they'll do it because they can, you know, just basically sit in a chair, file paperwork, answer phones, you know, process, you know, patients, visits and stuff like that. They just like doing stuff like that because it's very low on, you know, basically labor, and it's less stressful. So they'll most women, that's how they operate. That's what they do. And there's nothing against that. I understand that, but that's why that is, you know. And when it comes to classism, there's going to be always a class. Like in America, there's two things that's going on. You got classism and racism. Well, the classism is just, in order to be in the club, you have to either have the education level, a combination of the education level and socioeconomic level to be in that class. And that's it, like, for the most part. Racism doesn't earn you any money. You could be a racist and live in the projects and be a black racist. You could be a white racist and live in the trailer parks. The fact that you hate niggas, kites, and Jews, or spics, or whatever, or wops, or whatever, whoever you don't like, it doesn't matter. The end of the day, you're going to still be in that trailer park. You know, the next day, you're going to still be in that trailer park. You know, and the thing is that with classism, that's the thing. People are deciding, you know, I don't want to be around people that have low expectations, that are violent and emotion, don't know how to deal with their emotions, and don't respect anything or their own neighborhood, throwing trash and, you know, committing violent crimes and all of that type of stuff. So it's, you know, it is a story of two sagas, I guess you want to say.
Today, and he was talking about the wars and all of this stuff that was about to happen. When he was a little bit younger than me, it just did something to me, and it was like I just had to set him aside. I pulled him aside straight up and he stopped. He was like, "What you mean?" I said, "Bro, that's what we got out. That's what we worked so hard for, was to get out." I said, "You don't even stay there, and you still connected somehow. Look, I can hear the ambulance right now, and it gives me memories and things that happened back in my childhood that remind me of certain things in my lifetime." I said, "Bro, wasn't the goal to get out of the hood?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Yeah." I said, "You ain't even in the hood no more." I said, "You stay over there." He said, "Yeah." I said, "So what you still doing going back to the hood, bro? Ain't nothing there for you. You fool to them. How cool you are, I don't care how connected you are. You fool to them, bro. When I was staying in the hood and I thought I was going to keep it real and keep my money in the hood, I got carjacked. I got robbed. Grew up with. It wasn't nobody that I didn't know. It was a setup. The goal was to get out. What am I trying to convince you? What am I trying to convey to you guys today? What am I trying to convince you for? It's just as important to get out of the hood physically.
I'm gonna leave it with that, man. That was a good outro. Have a good one. Now, hopefully this will explain why people move, why it explains black flight as well as white flight. Well, white flight is a little bit different, but yeah, it is a thing called black flight, believe it or not. And I think you know a little bit more about it because of this video.